Hello, my name is Dan Lillienkamp. I'm with History and Genealogy at St. Louis County Library. And in this video, I will be discussing ways of finding a European town of origin. Now, why is this important? Why do we even care where the name of a specific town where our ancestors came from? And the answer is, that's where the records will be in Europe. And if we want to trace them further back, we will need to know a specific place. These possibilities that I will be discussing in this video were developed by the staff of History and Genealogy over a several month period. Is it an exhaustive list? Probably not. If we can think of this many, we can probably think of more. The point is, this is a starting point, not an ending point, and these are some ideas to get your thoughts started. The first possibility is to ask other family members. Just because I don't know something doesn't mean no one does. Maybe one of the branches of my family has passed that information down. Just because mine didn't doesn't mean the information isn't out there. Ask around. You might discover a cousin or an aunt or uncle. If you're lucky enough to have living grandparents or great aunts and uncles, maybe one of them will know something. It's worth asking. Second idea is look for old family papers and artifacts. You really just don't know what you might have lying around in a box somewhere, in your attic, in your basement, or maybe in your cousin's basement or attic, or your aunt or uncles, or even your siblings. In this case, I have a letter that was written by a distant cousin to my father's aunt after the end of the Second World War. And in it, she names the place, Boxvilliers in Bas-Rhin, which is in Alsace. Also, from the same aunt's house after she passed away, we found this tray. And on the tray, it lists here on the bottom the same thing, the name Boxvilliers. In fact, it is a picture of the town on the tray. I've had both of these documents in my possession since 1974, but I didn't realize what I had until I found the town name elsewhere. Don't be me. And it is a place. If we can find it on Google Maps and discover that it's just a little northwest of Strasbourg. A third possibility, and this is one that everyone wants to gravitate to, and quite honestly it very rarely works, and that's a passenger list. Sometimes the information is written down, sometimes it's not. And if we look in this case, this is my great-great-grandfather, Frederick Lillienkamp. And it says he comes from this place called Volmerdinssing. Strange name, but there it is. And it turns out if I look on the map, it's actually a place. Now there's a problem with this, because that's not where he was from. He was actually from the next town over, Bergkirchen. But it got me in the ballpark, and it enabled me to look in church records from around that area until I found what I needed. Another possibility is Naturalization Records. This is another one people gravitate to and think, oh, if I find the naturalization record, it's going to tell me what I need. Well, the early ones in St. Louis probably won't. It just says this guy was from Ireland. Now that's nice, but it's not enough. If you get the later ones, however, after 1906 when the federal government took them over, they will actually give a place. In this case, that the Clarence says, I was born in Francavilla a Mare, Italy. And that's a real place. One of my favorite things to look for is church records. Oftentimes, the church will name a town. In this case, we have a marriage record. And according to it, the groom is from a place called Trufflingen in Hohen something. Well, I think it's Hohenzollern. And if I look on the map, there it is, just southeast of Stuttgart. The bride's is a little more complicated because it gives me a place and says it's in Bohemia, but the place itself doesn't exist. So I have to look around and guess a little bit. And I think that I found it. And so I know the German name, but I have to figure out what the Czech name is because Bohemia is no longer part of the Austrian Empire. It's part of the Czech Republic. And I found it on the map just to the southeast of Prague. Church records, in this case, baptismal records of someone's children may provide the information, or they may not. In this case, this is my great-grandmother who was baptized at St. Trinity Lutheran Church in Carondelet. There is absolutely no mention of where her parents were from. However, her eldest sister was baptized at St. Marcus Evangelical Church, and the pastor there recorded more information. With the parents, he informs us that her father was from Boxfeuillet in Alsace, and her mother was from the same place. And again, we've seen already that that's actually a place. Sometimes you can find the information in a birth record for a child. This is a birth record from St. Clair County, Illinois. And it says the father is from a place called Rodden in Prussia. Well, we would today say that it is in Westphalia, which was then part of Prussia, and it's just a little southwest of Hanover. The mother, according to this record, was from a place called Belm in Hanover. And that's just north of Osnabrück. Now, this doesn't happen very often, but sometimes we can find a European place of origin in a civil marriage record. In this case, it's a St. Louis civil marriage record. Now, as far as the groom is concerned, it just says he's from Württemberg. Well, that's a state. That narrows it down slightly, but it's not going to help us find any records for him. However, according to this, his bride was from Brunn in Austria. And that's an actual place just a little bit south of Vienna. Idea number 8. This works hit or miss, but it's an easy search, especially if you live in Missouri where these are online. In this case, the death certificate says the decedent was born in Siciliana in Italy, and that's a real place. It's on the coast of Sicily. Another possibility to look for is obituaries and death notices. They don't always contain this information, but sometimes they do. In this case, we have an obituary from the Westliche Post, a German language newspaper in St. Louis. And it says, is from Rotha an der Wiel in Province Nassau. Well, that doesn't exist, but there is a road on der Wiel, and that's probably what they're talking about. And there it is to the northwest of Frankfurt. But you don't necessarily have to be in a foreign language newspaper to find it. Here's one from the St. Louis Globe-Democrat. And it said the deceased was a native of Mallow, County Cork, Ireland. And there it is, between the city of Cork and the city of Limerick in Western Ireland. Sometimes you'll find this information in a will. In this case, it's the will of James Byrne. And he said he is from the parish of Rathvilly in the county of Carlow in Ireland. And there's the town on the map. Sometimes you get really lucky and you find it on a headstone. In this case, it's hard to read, but with a little deciphering, we can determine that it's from a place called Moneygall in Kings County, Ireland. Well, Kings County doesn't exist anymore. They changed the name. So it's now County Offaly. But the town of Moneygall is still there on the map to the southwest of Dublin. Sometimes a World War I draft registration will provide the information. In this case, an immigrant was drafted and he was from Levian, Scotland. Again, this one took a little of interpretation because there is no Levian in Scotland, but there is a Levin, and there it is just across the bay from Edinburgh. Sometimes you can find your ancestor's place of origin in the U.S. Census. This shouldn't work, but sometimes it does, because sometimes the census taker didn't do what they're supposed to do and recorded more information than they should have. Oh darn. So in this case, we have a man, and according to the census, he's from Loughborough in County Leinster in England. And there's the town. Now here's a side note on this. Working in the library as I do, we often see people coming in and searching the census, and they come to this page, the index page, and they think, wow, this is so much easier to read than that handwritten stuff. I'm just going to print this off and go on my way. Well, here's the pitfall of that. This page just says the man's from England. If you take the extra step and look at the actual record, you get more information. Other possibilities would be published family histories and internet sites. In this case, we don't even have to go beyond the cover of the book to find out where they're from. And that's a town in France. There it is on the map. You can find online trees in a lot of places. And I have mixed feelings about them. On one hand, they can provide you with great clues. But on the other, they could be completely wrong. You don't know how good a quality of a researcher the person that put the information out there was. That said, treat it as a clue. If you find your ancestor on a tree and it says where they're from, in this case, he was born in January 1851 in Stavanger, Norway, that's actually a place. Knowing the place, we can go check the records and see if he was actually born there. This is a tree from Ancestry. Same problem. We don't know the quality of this researcher. But according to this tree, the person was born in Deblicki in Łomża, Poland. And there it is to the northeast of Warsaw. Another possibility that most people don't even think about is a database on Ancestry called the U.S. Army Register of Enlistments, 1798 to 1914. Now sometimes, as in this case that I'm showing you now, it just says that the enlistee was from Westphalia in Prussia. Well, Westphalia is a state. That won't help you. However, in this case, we find out that the enlistee is from Saxe-Meiningen. And that's actually a place. Another possibility are geographical surname sites. Now, this isn't necessarily going to get you directly to a place, but it's going to get you in the neighborhood, assuming you don't have a really common surname or a surname that's spread widely across different parts of the country. There's one for France, for Germany, for the Netherlands, Ireland, Italy, Poland, and in fact quite a few of them. And you can find links to these on the Family Search Wiki. If you just go to the wiki and search for surname distribution maps, it'll take you there. Another possibility is searching a contemporary telephone book. The assumption here is that people with your surname will still be in the town that your ancestors came from. That may not be a true assumption, but it's one that's sometimes worth making. They're easy to find. Just do a search. Search for British telephone book, German telephone book, French telephone book, Czech telephone book. You get the idea. Usually you can use Google Translate then to translate the page so you can see what the fields mean, and you enter the information and see what comes up. Plot them out on a map. See where they are. If you've got a big cluster of people with the same surname in one location, it's a good chance that's where your ancestors came from. Then look for other records to support that idea. Another possibility is to use some location-specific resources. These are books that list surnames and their locations in a particular place or provide information about the surname. Examples are the Dictionary of English and Welsh Surnames, the Württemberg Immigration Index, Irish Names and Surnames, the Surnames of Ireland, the Alsace Immigration Book, Les Noms de Famille du Finistère or some other department in France, Italian-American Roots. Any of these might provide clues to where your ancestors came from. And clues is what they will be. You'll still have to go to the records of that particular place and see whether or not you can find them. But it narrows things down considerably. Again, this is an important subject if you want to do resource in a European place of origin. We need to know a specific town where our ancestors came from in order to find records about them. There are unfortunately no overall databases that just list everybody from a country. You have to go to the town. As I said earlier, is this a complete list of all possibilities? Almost certainly not. We listed 18. We could probably list another 18 if we sat down and thought about it. Be creative with your research. Be creative with your thinking. This information is out there. It's just a matter of finding it. If you've got further questions about this, please feel free to contact us at History and Genealogy, and thank you for watching.